Hello, welcome back to part 2 of the bathroom renos. Here we're just doing a bit of framing before I pick up the camera and explain what's due for today's video, which I can give you a hint of now. We're going to be doing some villa board and some waterproofing and a little bit of framing, which is what we're doing here, just fixing up the shower niche. At this point, that plumbing mistake that happened in the previous video has been fixed, and the boards are now secured to the floor, so we don't have to worry about any of that anymore. And there's water now feeding to those taps, but they're capped off, obviously, because they're not spraying everywhere. Anyway, I'm going to pick up the camera here in a moment and explain, what else is going on, a few little updates and whatnot, and I'll get back to you. Little update. So floor is all framed. Boards are now nailed in, except for this panel. There's still some plumbing that has to go up and be channeled into a concrete. Carve out the concrete there and run some copper from hot and cold that's under the floor here and run it up under there. Removing that off the wall, which comes through the wall from the laundry. That's cold water for the toilet, so it'll all be under the floor and that wall will be cleaned up, but that's for later. So yeah, floor's all down, so now I'm working on the walls around the shower and the window, so that's this wall as well. And I'm just making sure my framing's all good before I put villa board up. I've got these 2 boxes framed up for like shampoo and whatever. What are they called? Niches? Shower niches? 2 shower niches here. This side I can't do because I did some weird framing to get that just nailed into that piece of frame, which is nailed into the concrete behind, so that just keeps this frame really sturdy. I did a couple up here for these. I don't know if that's really up to standard or whatever, but they hold really well. And the bottom's just framed into the beams underneath, so it's a solid frame. I could probably do some into that if I wanted to, but I think that's just overkill at that point. It just needs to hold the weight of like the villa board and the panel going up, and that will definitely hold it all together. So yeah, everything's gonna get villa boarded, and all of these niches are gonna get done as well. Then once it's all wrapped in villa board, it's ready to be waterproofed, so primed and membraned. So this next clip, I'm just gonna let it play out. When trying to do my standoffs or my blocks to hold this piece of billboard up, um, I ended up just slightly touching the shower base there to the right. It's just leaning up against the wall. What I thought was a pretty secure spot turns out it wasn't. It's a bit of a lengthy clip. It's a live reaction, if you will, to what happened. Yeah, it was. I thought it was pretty funny, but at the same time, I was pretty devastated. Yeah, these things happen, so we basically just cleaned up and got on with the rest of the day because didn't need the shower base on this day, fortunately, so I wasn't holding up any work. We just went and bought a new one a few weeks later, much lighter one as well, made of fiberglass, and it's like a low sitting one. I don't know, it doesn't sit up as high as that one, which meant all my notches were too tall that I'd done in the wall, but like that's fine, it doesn't really matter. I just had the sheet come down, the splashback sheet come down over the top of those gaps, and it was all good. Here I was just mixing up some mortar to fill in that bit of a gap at the bottom there, just because this sheet, because it's on brick, I was nailing into the softer brick or softer mortar, which you'll see later on, but I end up using adhesive to actually be the main holding force for this sheet. So I just wanted to have as much surface area as possible, especially at the bottom, so the bottom doesn't sort of like stick out. You'll notice later when I take out my blocks that I use to hold it up, it actually pulls it away from the wall, which is a bit annoying. But I ended up getting some weights on it overnight and just pressing it into the wall, like just shoved right up against them and pressing them into the wall. You can also see that my mortar mix is like improved from the first video where I had a really dry mix, and I also mixed in just a little bit of the mortar with water to make like a I forget what it's called, like a slag or like a some sort of, it's just like a pre-coat that you like sort of splash onto the wall, has a bit of water and like a slurry, that's what it's called. It's called a slurry. So I threw a bit of slurry on the wall just to help adhere this bit of mortar, and just cutting off the excess filler boards pieces at the top here. So here I just had to flatten out my framing for a bit of plasterboard that I was going to put up. So I was originally planning on using more Villa board because it's so close to the shower. However, like I didn't have the money to go buy a whole new sheet. Plus, to buy a whole new sheet of Villa board, they only come in one size, which is like 2400 by 2200 or something like that. Or 22, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, big sheets and small area, lots of waste. Yes, simple terms. So yeah, just flattening this off to put up some plasterboard. I got these little sheets, little square sheets, and I'm just using them to check how flat the surface is, taking off any remaining high spots. These sheets were like $10 each at Bunnings. Yep, thumbs up. Good job, Bob. And yeah, they worked out perfectly. They brought this wall nice and flat and level with the cement sheet. Why do I keep looking at the camera and smiling? It's so cringe. Just stop. Just stop. So yeah, just filling out any spots that weren't leveled with the wall, because obviously the framing I was using to cover up the gap in between the double brick. So this plasterboard just brought everything level, and it was actually the perfect thickness that if I stacked two sheets on top of each other, it came out nice and even with the surface of the wall. So I don't record it, but later on screen you see that it's all been plastered as well. So some wet plaster has just been smeared on all the surfaces and smoothed it all together. There is a bit of unevenness to the left side of the frame, simply because this wall isn't, like, the whole house is like slightly not square sort of thing, so things are coming in at weird angles in this bathroom, and you just gotta do your best to make the surface look as smooth and flat as possible. Especially in these older houses, they're all a bit wonky, a bit pre any building regs, so you just gotta do your best. But yeah, I'm just adding a double layer to these pieces, and they're gonna go inside the wall behind the frame there. So just see that lip running down next to the blue wood there. So that just fills out any gaps for when I do get to the waterproofing. There's no gaps to clear, and there's good backing, so I have good adhesion, good adhesion. And so here's that bit of wall, all flattened, all plastered off, all ready for tiles and waterproofing and then tiles. Now with everything flattened out and the walls prepped to, my highest expectation, I guess. I don't know. I just had to remove all the dust, all the big loose dust pieces, and get the vacuum in there, just remove as much dust as possible. I then use this primer on every bit of surface, every corner, because what primer actually does is it holds the dust particles down. It's sort of like a glue, so it's not like 100% for the actual, membrane adhesive going on top. It's more just to hold the dust particles down, so that when you do paint your main paint or your main whatever on top, it's sticking to dust, but the dust is also stuck, because dust would normally sit loose when you paint over the top of it, and it kind of creates like an air gap between the surface that you're painting on and the paint, which obviously you don't want. You want good adhesion. I'm really struggling with that word, hey. You want good adhesion, so you have a good final product. So now we're pre-mixing the membrane. This stuff really, really stinks. Like, it is the strongest chemical smell I have ever smelt in my DIY career. So the blue stuff is membrane tape. If you've never seen anything like this before, you put this over all the corners, so you have nice sort of transitions between surfaces and no gaps between these surfaces. So if there is water landing anywhere, it doesn't get behind the wall and down into wood and rot stuff. It sort of seals everything into one big surface, like a membrane. Wow, fancy that. I forgot to tape off, so you see me sort of start the taping here, and yeah, off and down around the bottom there, but I cut that part out. So yeah, I've sort of painted on the wall on that first bit, but yeah, we sort that with the rest of it and make sure I stay within the line. Yeah, I pre-cut a lot of the membrane tape off camera already, so I could just smoothly run and operate, and cut it a little bit longer so I could do all the corners and stuff. I've got shit gloves for this job as well. I just kind of got those food grade gloves. I recommend maybe some heavy duty like rubber gloves for this stuff, because this, like, it's not corrosive, but it is very messy and does get everywhere, and it's already ripped my glove because it's kind of sticky as well and does weird rubbery feely stuff with rubber gloves. So like, it sort of just ripped my gloves straight away and made them redundant, but anyway. So yeah, you pre-paint your membrane on, and then you get a nice thick glob of it over the top to hold the tape on, and just slap that shit on there, buddy. I did 3 coats in total, and yeah, I was saying this stuff like really is like, it's just a horrible chemical smell. Even with the mask on, it, the smell was still getting in, and I was starting to like actually get a bit dizzy. So I've just got the fan running to exhaust all of the fumes coming off of this stuff. I'm pretty sure it's not corrosive. I'd have to reread the tub on it, just to double check, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not. The second and third coats obviously went on a lot quicker. I didn't have to do any of the taping off, so it was pretty smooth operation from here on out. And that's gonna do it for this video. It's just, I'll let this footage play out. I'm just finishing off the last coat here, but yeah, that's it for this video. We've done all the walls and the waterproofing. In the next video we'll be installing the shower screen and base and the splashback and some tiling for the shower niches and maybe the toilet as well. I'm not too sure what footage I've got up to, but yeah, we're catching up to the real life work pretty quick now because I'm still currently finishing off the vanity cabinet, and a little bit of tiling still has to be done once the cabinet's done, just up to the kickboard of it. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed following along with this so far. I'm trying to do weekly upload on the progress of this, but obviously if I'm catching up to my work, I might miss a week and still be finishing off some of the work. We'll see how we go. I'm trying to get out there, but I've injured my shoulder, so I'm only doing about a half day's work at the moment, and the rest has just been on the computer. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.